Hey guys, Dan here alongside with Joe for Freaks and Geeks Friday. We're getting Joe into this show. It's going to happen. It's already started. You love the pilot. And now, 17 more episodes to go. We're going to review one episode, hopefully every week.
The goal.
We might skip a week here or there, but we'll not skip an episode, just maybe a week or something.
Yeah, we'll try to keep it up.
But here we are already with episode 2, Beers and Weirs. This is another classic in the pantheon of Freaks and Geeks, fan favorites, I think. And I suppose we'll let you do the synopsis.
All right.
Like I always did with The Sopranos.
Well, so
far,
far,
what is this episode about?
So far, these synopses are pretty easy. This one's a little more complicated. Basically, Lindsay, as you said, is trying to kind of get into the Freaks. She's trying to get more with that group and impress them, and finds out, her parents are going away for the weekend for a conference or something, and say, hey, you can have the house to yourself. And so she's like, well...
Yeah, they convinced the parents that they don't need babysitters. Originally, they were going to have a babysitter.
Which is a very believable thing, because I'm like, okay, they're at that age where it might be a little more understandable, and...
I think...
How old is she supposed to be?
He's a freshman, so she's got to be... I think she's a junior.
She's like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to say she's a junior.
So
she's not graduating.
No. So I guess her parents are kind of protective then?
I think, yes. Because I feel like in 1980, it was pretty common to leave your kids alone for the weekend, especially if one of them was in high school.
Yeah, that's why I was
I would say overprotective.
A little overprotective, which seems like her parents, honestly.
Yeah.
But basically, of course, what does she do with her
Very hands-on parents.
Very hands-on.
Yeah.
Her first opportunity at home with the house is throw a party. And so they get a keg, and she's just kind of trying to impress James Franco's character.
Yes, Daniel.
Daniel. And that's the main goal, which doesn't go quite as well later on. But the real crux of the plot, which of course is my favorite thing, is Sam and his friends Bill and Neil, and that's how you know they're my favorite characters, because I know their names.
Right.
I know them and Lindsay, so spoilers, those are my favorites so far. They're concerned because the school's been trying to do the Scared Straight, which,
oh my God,
which is doing
one of the great all-time scenes of Freaks and Geeks, is the assembly.
Which, by the way, man, I'm keep these thoughts because I'm going to
all right,
I got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Okay,
but yes,
good.
They're
glad
doing
to hear that.
They're doing the PSA sort of thing as the high schools do, and thing is though, while Lindsay's blowing it off and trying to hang out with everybody else, those older kids and the Freaks, Sam and his friends are like, oh no, beer, people. Interesting note. She's a little older. She walks away right after they talk about people dying. So actually there are some good nuggets in the presentation, which she did miss.
Yeah.
And of course Sam.
Yeah, right before that, the slideshow started with the dead kids. She left.
I feel like we learned
Daniel took off.
So much more about his character here. He is such a good kid.
Sam.
Okay. Sam and Bill and Neil actually.
Yeah.
They really genuinely have some valid concerns about Lindsay.
Yeah.
And they actually are like, okay, we want to try to protect her. She's got all these friends coming over, which turns out may not be such a good idea, because it turns out word's getting around, there's going to be beer, and the whole town, the whole school's coming in, including even some older people.
Some adults,
a 6-year-old man shows up.
In their 40s, 50s, yeah.
When I saw it, I'm like, oh, this isn't looking good.
Right.
So I was like, okay, so clearly this is getting out of hand, because she can't say no. But Sam and his friends come up with this plot to try and switch out the keg with non-alcoholic beer so that people won't get drunk and they'll get bored and go home, which is absolutely brilliant. And the best thing about it is it's an actually really cool plan. And the best thing about that is they actually go into the store, the liquor store, gas station, whatever, and legitimately tell the clerk, hey, we want some non-alcoholic beer. And of course, this seems like a lot of kids would pull this. And the guy, one of the best moments of comedy, is like, okay, you're trying to switch out the beers to non-alcoholic? Yeah, man. Just screw them over.
At first he's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And they're like, please, it's so important. He's like, why? And it's the dude from a lot of the Adam Sandler movies. I don't know his name, but he was in, Grandma's Boy and all that
Great
stuff.
little scene for him.
And once they, tell him, he literally just starts, howling. He's like,
yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Yeah. And it's like...
He's got a cigarette, hanging out of his mouth.
Almost like mess with this. Whatever his motivations are, it's like, it clicks okay, this could be funny, or I'm with you.
I sort of always got the sense that was sort of his reasoning. Like he thought it was a good gag.
A good gag.
Yeah, he thought it was a good gag to pull on.
Not that they're trying to actually help. That didn't connect. But like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll let you mess with their party.
He was like, this will be hilarious to screw over their party or whatever.
So basically, the rest of the episode's about hijinks dealing with that, but also Lindsay gets kind of upset because Daniel ends up making out with his girlfriend, Kim Kelly,
who keeps. They're like on again, off again. They're fighting at the beginning of the episode,
and that's kind of an issue. She gets upset about that and is like, why did I invite people over?
Even at the beginning of the party, they're broken up.
Yeah,
because that old man is like hitting on her because she's like, oh, I dumped his ass.
Yeah, picks her up and slaps her on the ass. And it's
so they're broken up even at the beginning of the party.
So there's confusing young hormonal feelings. It's once again very realistic, very believable. Yep. Really appreciated all that. But there's also some other little nuggets too. Like, for instance, okay.
So many good parts.
Bill gets drunk.
Yeah, Bill ends up sipping
with
off.
The cake because he's watching Dallas, which has some great jokes. So, I'm going to watch Dallas. Man, Dallas sucks. Like, no, Dallas is great. Like, I'm just kidding, guys. Dallas does suck.
And then some girl walks by while he's saying Dallas.
I don't actually like Dallas. That was just like, oh man. So that's a great little bit, and also
a little recurring bit.
Also, all right. I got two more things to talk about before we spread into the details of what we like. But another plot element, adding into why I'm really so super sold on his character. Okay. Like, I liked him a lot. He was my favorite in the pilot, but Neil is the MVP of this show so far.
I knew Neil would be your favorite.
Neil, I'm like, okay, Neil's smart. He's got the pop culture references. He's geeky, but first of all, some of the best laughs for me, the Sabbath joke about Black Sabbath,
he's hilarious.
Was Sabbath. That was great.
It fell flat to Lindsay, but
he
loved it.
I was hilarious.
Yeah.
The Jewish joke, like I was.
How about when he's going back and forth with the black guy about who has it worse?
Oh man, I was voted into class treasurer and I didn't even run. I was like, oh man. So he had a lot of great lines, but also he genuinely is a good kid, a good young guy.
You're right, though. He is the MVP of the episode.
Like, and he, obviously he has a crush on Lindsay, which she kind of knows about, and doesn't completely like shoot him down in the worst way.
Do you think she totally knows about it? Well, I guess he reveals it at the end of the episode.
Okay, that's the other big thing for him is he's actually consoling her when she's feeling bad, and really he does care about her, and I think in a pretty good, fairly pure way.
Yeah,
it's not totally based around like trying to get with her.
Kid type. Sort of like he's not trying to have sex with her. He just
which is a great
sees them dating or kissing or whatever.
It's very
it's pure. It's innocent.
It's more innocent.
Yeah,
not 100%. I think because he's like
he's 14, still a 14-year-old boy.
But you know what I'm saying. It's fine. Whatever. But the point is, there is that.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
Before I forget, I get it out. Almost done. There's that, and I think that it really just shows like how much he cares, and that is a great one. And answer to your question, I thought that she did know because even before, and I think that's why she doesn't like get freaked out or anything or say screw you dumb kid, because he is so genuine that he cares. Because remember, he's like, she'd be hanging out playing with your friends. No, I really like talking to you. And she's like, oh, like she kind of knows. There's like that subtle glint, like I get it. This kid likes me.
Okay, I could see that.
Because I think Lindsay would put up with that.
I guess I always sort of thought she didn't know until that night.
I think she kind of figured, but she didn't care.
But that would make sense, I guess.
Because she's a nice person. Remember, she was trying to go out with the one kid to help him with the dance last episode.
Yeah.
I think she does that, so she has a soft spot for him. My point is, she acted a lot better than a lot of older girls might be like, oh, disgusting kid, whatever. Yeah. So that was a great moment for her. But I thought that the way Neil was acting and how he cared about her and was trying to console her was greatly juxtaposed to Jason Segel's character's problem because he's
that's what I was just going to say, yeah.
He's depressed
compared to that.
John Bonham dying.
And I have some things to say about that, too.
And also, I thought that was a really, really interesting detail that, he's feeling really bad afterwards. She comes out because she's upset about Daniel.
Right.
They start hugging. He starts, like, undoing her bra and, like, kind of doing something sexual, which is very different, obviously, than what Neil was doing.
Right.
A little bit older, but very interesting detail was he used the excuse, oh, I'm wasted. It's non-alcoholic
beer. Right, it's non-alcoholic beer.
So that we talked about the placebo effect in the episode. It's mind over... It was very interesting.
And
very interesting.
And we'll talk more about that scene for sure. But the other thing that juxtaposes it is she is even more vulnerable when Neil comes in. She's laying on the bed.
Oh,
really upset.
That is a good point. Because she even says, "I'm wasted." She looks like, I mean, I don't know, young kids, emotions. She thinks she's. Who knows what he could have gotten away with?
Right.
But he didn't push it. He didn't push it, and right. I think I'm just saying Neil is just a great character.
Yeah.
I love that kid.
Favorite. So far.
All right.
Or Bill.
Bill. See, Bill, I was like, okay, he's got some funny lines, but he's kind of timid. Bill's kind of great. Like when he gives his diatribe after he drinks about dating and about I watched this monkey show on PBS and you got to be dominant. You're drunk. I am kind of drunk, but go away. That's very dominant. Like Bill's
that was pretty great.
Bill's got some good moments.
Yes.
But honestly, I want to also say Sam is just an adorable kid.
Yeah, Sam's great.
He's a great kid. I just love that he genuinely cares about his sister. Like he just seems like a good young person.
Yes.
And I just that trio, man. I hope there's more good moments with them.
Well, yeah, of course. They're half of the show.
Yeah,
they're the geeks.
And so far they're just dominating, man. Sam Rogen's got a couple good lines.
It's so much easier to like their characters, because you have Lindsay's entire life in these first few episodes is splitting the difference between the family life, the geek life that she was used to with Millie, and the crazy freaks, But so number one, the geeks are easier to like.
Maybe that's part of it.
I think they're written that way. But one thing that I personally have always found, of the many things that makes this a cut above every other show, that deals with high school era and stuff, is that these are not character people. Even Bill, who is certainly the most classic nerd, I think, looks-wise on the show.
But he's not really. He's just awkward and quiet.
Who do you think of the three of them is the most classic nerd? Neil, because he quotes Captain Kirk?
Neil's pretty nerdy, but he's more outspoken.
Yeah, I think Bill is the most classic nerd.
He's the stereotypical nerd, but his character isn't really.
Okay.
I'd say he's probably the least intelligent of the three.
That's what I'm going to get to. So, here's the thing.
He's pretty great.
He's pretty great. Even though the freaks are obviously the less desirable group,
I guess,
and you're like, as the viewer, you're like, oh, Lindsay, no, don't go to them, whatever. The show makes a conscious effort to always have some sort of bigger picture going on with every character, really. But the freaks are not designed to be like a lot of the typical TV show scare your kids kind of freaks.
No.
They're certainly maybe burnouts. Certainly Jason Segel's character is high, almost all the time. Certainly Seth Rogen's character is almost high all the time. Franco, don't know.
Seems like it.
He seems like it, though. They're obviously, aren't really supposed to be showing them
as role models,
smoking, pot or anything on the show, but it's pretty
applied.
Very heavily applied. But there were such caricatures on TV to that point, except for, like I mentioned last time, the Wonder Years, which really set the template kind of on its head. But in every high school show you could think of from the 80s and 90s, you had the whole very special episode thing. I'm going through season 1 of The Facts of Life actually right now, and every other episode is in fact, there was a pod episode today that I watched. Every other episode is a very special episode sort of thing, and what you have in there is there's no gray area. Everything's black or white. In the Facts of Life episode, now granted this is from the late 70s even.
Okay.
But around the era that the show takes place.
Interesting.
So, the girl was caught with pot, and then they expelled her from the high school, and, total black mark on her whole life now, and her life is ruined because she tried to join, and it's it was, very black and white, there's no gray.
Yeah.
Freaks and Geeks is all gray.
Oh, yeah.
And so even though the geeks are certainly more lovable characters,
I guess so.
We definitely learn more about the freaks as we go along, and we learn a lot about, well, how did they become this way? How did they get into drugs? How what are their family lives like?
Or that slow build up?
And it's a slow build up. So yes, in the first 2 episodes,
Right.
it's certainly like,
Well,
the geeks are the crowning achievement.
So far, they're pretty
Every
great.
parent's wet dream, kind of thing.
I mean, they fumble, but yeah, they are more likable, I guess, in
Yeah.
that sense. I think that the Freaks were a little more likable in this episode, in the sense that I think that they were just kind of trying to include her and let her have fun with them.
Yeah.
But clearly, doing that had repercussions.
Right.
I will say, okay, I think Daniel, I want to like Daniel, but clearly there's some difficulty there.
He's my least favorite character.
I was going to say he's probably my least
of the main
favorite.
ones.
I really...
And I don't think that changes the whole series.
I wanted to ask you, because clearly she has romantic interest in him, but I thought that established in the last episode that there was something going on between her and Jason Segel. Were they just friends, or was it kind of shifting? I didn't really know how to pick
she
up
doesn't know herself.
Okay.
Her main attraction is to Daniel, James Franco's character.
Yeah.
But the whole on and off thing with Kim Kelly makes that a very difficult proposition. So she's sort of, and I believe he's kind of the one that ushered her into the group.
Yeah.
So she's like definitely wanting to be with him more than anybody else. But, Nick, the Jason Segel character, we saw in that first episode, was having much more personal moments with her.
Yeah, much more connection
than Daniel did.
Yeah.
So it's funny in the commentary that I watched on this episode with Paul Feig and some of the actors, they were saying that they were sort of hoping to do kind of a back and forth thing with Daniel and her if the show had gone on for 3-4 years and she would, at the end of high school end up with him.
Really?
That's what they sort of were looking towards. But the whole thing with Nick at this point is that he's opened up to her more.
He has opened up to her more, and to be fair, clearly he's not perfect, he's a young man, but that last little moment where he was kind of like sort of trying to take sexual advantage of her was like kind of showed his weakness.
Okay, so let's talk about that scene
which I was like,
it's a great scene to discuss.
That made me not really like him in that moment. I will admit.
So another thing they talked about in the commentary track was being very, very delicate with that scene.
Yeah.
Because they were saying, like, if you play this the wrong way, especially in episode 2...
He's done. He's done.
And the phrase that Paul Feig used was, there's no coming back from it. And so it was close, but when she said no...
He stopped.
He stopped immediately.
That's true.
So that's number 1.
That's number 1.
And number 2, he is the one that earlier in the party kind of saves Millie from a bunch of embarrassment when she goes over and starts singing her Jesus song. So he's the one who went over there and made that, hey guys, sing along.
I'm glad you pointed it out, because that was a great little scene, because she's got this straight-laced, super Christian girl trying to kind of be there for her friend, but not wanting to drink beer.
Right.
And she starts playing this song, but his love of music is so strong. He's like, let's just...
Yeah.
So that was a cool moment.
And it makes sense that he would know some kind of churchy song.
Sure.
They're growing up in the Midwest in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And that girl, by the way, Millie, apparently that is just her.
Really? That's her?
Yeah. Okay, so there's 2 commentary tracks on every episode. So the first commentary track was Paul Feig and some of the actors. The second commentary track was 3 of the parents of the actors.
Oh.
So you had Sam's dad, her mom, and somebody else's mom. Oh, it was Martin Starr's mom.
It's interesting
Bill.
they did that.
So so it was kind of funny and sort of cute to hear them talking about like what projects their kids are up to now, and talking about being on set with them, because some of the kids were 13 and 14 when they, when the show was first on. But yeah, Millie's mom was like, oh yeah, this character seems like it was almost written for her. Like this is her. She knows how to play the piano. She went to church to do all these songs. So it was interesting to hear that side of it. By the way, the photographer in the opening credits, you only see him sort of in shadows, sort of setting up the kids, is Sam's dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the guy, the kid that plays Sam, his real life dad is the the person that did that. So
also, Guidance Counselor came back episode 2. Didn't have to wait.
Yes, so he's a recurring character.
He's got a great.
He's in it a lot. So we can talk about the improvisational
that
drunk driving assembly or drunken assembly scene.
Like there are a lot of laughs in this one
with Millie.
That was one of my favorites, just with her and the other young guy who they got advice from the first
Yeah,
episode.
he was in the first episode. He kind of recurs.
He's pretty cool.
I don't think he's in
the hipster
like all the
guy.
episodes, but yeah. Let me see if his name is even in recurring cast.
I like them clearly just giving these like stunted lines for their performance. Now
oh my god! When he asks for cocaine at the party,
can I have some
it's
cocaine?
So great.
I was just like, oh man.
So what that was there's like a 5-minute like deleted scene from the assembly, and so the guidance counselor calls them like the improv players or whatever, and that scene actually wasn't scripted.
It wasn't?
So no, and in the B-roll you see you hear the producers or the directors like calling out different things to try, like, hey, ask her for Coke next time. And so they ran through that a couple different ways, and one of them she misunderstands and thinks he's talking about the soda, and so yeah, that scene actually wasn't written. They sort of were just riffing about it, which is really funny.
I just love the deadpan performances. Just had me.
And how about how they sort of turned their dead thing on its head, because in the pilot you had Sam and Lindsay's dad saying about, he's dead now.
He's dead.
And now you have the guidance counselor doing the same thing. Oh, you want to ask her what it's like to be drunk all the time? Well, you can't because she's dead.
She can't because she's dead. And I
thought that was great.
I think Daniel had a great line where he's like, "Oh man, yeah, that's great. Some like pothead, like hippie guidance counselor trying to tell me not to drink beer."
Right?
Like, yeah, that's pretty.
He's
clear.
not wrong.
It's pretty.
Yeah, he's a great character, the guidance counselor.
I love the guidance counselor. He's good.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of some of the other lines. Neil had the Sabbath joke was great.
Sabbath joke was great.
Bill with Dallas was great.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'll keep my thought.
Also, just quickly, I think there's the last thing I want to get out. Once again, Seth Rogen's character, he doesn't have a lot of lines, but man,
does he deliver some zingers.
He had like 3 little like exchanges in this episode, and they all made me laugh.
I'll tell you my favorite.
It was like the one about like the coat man. She goes through her whole scheme to like
that was
Kelly
good.
to like get just get like change it for credit. That's how I got this coat. Oh yeah, it's beautiful. It sounds like it's really worth the effort. Like because it's like I was like, damn, like right away.
That was great.
That was a good one. And of course Sam just asking him like can you guys like my sister? Sure.
Oh yeah.
Like sure yeah. Which one's your sister?
Yeah. He's
that
like,
was
well,
great.
when you look out for it, he's like,
but
which one's your sister?
But
the crowning.
The plot twist
was
was one of the best parts. They was so like I'm sorry, like you can stay if you want. It's just non-alcoholic beer. Oh yeah, man, I know. I won like $87 this party was great. I was like, you know what? I had his character pegged. Totally surprised me.
Right.
That I would have think, he doesn't know the difference because he's cleverer than he seems.
Yeah, it's fun, and you can see it in the background of almost every shot too, with like those X-ray specs on, just kind of like
chilling in the background.
Yeah, chilling, sort of surveying the room.
Where's the keg?
And the whole time,
I'm at the corner.
The whole time he knew it was fake, and he was just scamming everybody to get, money with bets.
I want to find out a little more about him because he's a very interesting character.
I think we find out the most about Nick's background, Jason Segel, but there's definitely drips and drabs of everybody.
That's good.
So we'll find out.
Because you pointed out last time that it's actually kind of different for Seth Rogen. Normally he doesn't play angrier, chip on the shoulder guys. He's usually more upbeat.
Yeah.
Though I do think he was in. Was he in Donnie Darko or something as like a bully?
Oh God, I saw that movie 20 years ago.
I think his early roles were more like that. So
okay, well this would have been right around the time of Donnie Darko, so I guess that makes sense.
I wonder, it was something like that.
The other thing I really wanted to talk about a little more was Lindsay.
Great character.
Because she is a great character. We sort of talked about her with these other guys and stuff, and how she dealt with them, but. I just want to comment that one of my favorite scenes in the whole episode was that scene when she was in the kitchen with Neil and everything. But more to that, once that part of the scene's over, she goes out into the living room and Bill had just messed up the keg and sprayed the beer all over his pants.
Oh, with the pee.
Looks like he pissed himself.
Oh, yeah.
And her response to that, as the 16-year-old sister of like the 14-year-old geeks, to me said volumes about her character.
That was a great moment.
She didn't make fun of him.
Oh, that's
she
okay.
literally was like, "Oh,
you told me about your thing."
Yeah, like don't be embarrassed. Like he told me about your ear thing, which
like,
he lied about to get her to keep her in the kitchen. But
thing, yeah.
she's just like, Sam, get him something to wear. Like she
didn't make fun of him.
Didn't make fun of him.
Wasn't like annoyed, really.
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like a lot of older siblings, especially in TV shows, would be like, "Oh, dude, why are you bringing a loser friend in here? Like, would you piss yourself?"
Yeah.
She handled that with perfect kid gloves, and didn't make him feel stupid. Like even though she didn't know really what was going on, but in her mind, I think that said everything about her character.
Well, she is also, one of my favorite characters on the show so far.
She's certainly the most complex, I think.
She's the main character.
She's, I would say, the main character of the show, because she's the only person that floats between both
worlds,
parties,
and we're following her story and her struggle.
Right.
And I think she's definitely got the most interesting stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I don't know, would you say, I don't know, based on your experience watching the show, is she like one of the great main characters of a TV show since Freaks and Geeks is so great, or is it more of an ensemble greatness? Honestly. Do you think she could carry this show without like these early greats like Franco and Rogan and Siegel?
Boy, that's a great question.
'Cause I think she is a great character. I'm just wondering, seeing her in a show that's
of most high school shows I can think of, I would say this is, even though she is the main character, I think you're right about that. And it is really her story more than anything, and really the story of her family more than anything. I do think it's more of an ensemble than just about any other high school show I can think of. Like there's high school shows that take place only at high school, and we never see anybody's parents. But I wouldn't count that in the same vein.
Maybe this changes as the show goes on, but I know a lot of shows like this, really just a lot of more modern shows anyway, like dramedy, stuff like that. If it's an ensemble show, it's more split. Like, obviously Lindsay's centered, and we have Sam and his friends. They get a lot more time with just them, learning more about them.
Yeah.
With the Freaks, we don't have many extended scenes with them alone or with each other.
Not yet, yeah.
Not yet. So it's like, it doesn't...
Well, and I think that's on purpose. I think, and I don't know this yet, maybe I'll hear it in the commentary, but I think Apatow and Feig sort of realized that, look, if this is a show for families, if we present the Freaks too strong out of the gate, parents are not going to really want to watch this show as a family. I think we need to present them as sort of, characters first before they become like main plot point characters. I think we need to introduce them. They need to be lovable. They need to obviously have their, rough edges, but I think at its heart this is a family show.
It's interesting you bring that up, because as I'm watching it, I'm just not thinking of it as a family show, because I just think of like a lot of things that are on TV that are like this. And you know how like they're mostly so watered down or cheesy or preachy?
Yeah.
It doesn't, it seems more like it's not catering to a specific demographic.
I think that's why it failed. It was really,
it seems too good for that.
It was 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. It was a family time. Sit down with your kids and watch it. But the problem was it was the edgiest thing for families. There were edgy shows, but they were on later at night. Ally McBeal was on at 9. NYPD Blue was on at 10. There were edgier shows out there, but this is to me a precursor to a lot of these now basic cable shows like FX, AMC, TNT. A lot of these shows that are allowed to have a little more of an edge,
but they're still like main.
But they're still mainstream.
It's not HBO.
It's not HBO. It's not Netflix. They can't say F-bombs.
Maybe that's but this is kind of among those shows that did push the envelope with that, because it's amazing now, like 99, 2000 to now. What most of those shows on main networks can get away with now is it's almost like HBO.
Oh, it's crazy. Oh, yeah. People are calling each other dicks on 8 p.m. sitcoms on NBC, and it's like, what?
Well, the cursing is...
When did we start doing that?
Dude, the violence, like Walking Dead, That stuff's R. I don't know how.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it clearly works.
Well, and cable rules are still a little bit different than network rules.
But
even on, dude, you can get away with so much. One of the big, no pun intended, because it has to do with the show Scandal. But one of the big scandals of the last few years in network television is when they had a Peanuts special. I think it was maybe the Halloween special, airing at 8:30. And, networks try to maximize.
Right.
Well, they try to maximize so they don't run commercials now between the end credits and the beginning credits of the next show. And there was literally a pretty intense for ABC television sex scene
right after the
Peanuts. Following the Peanuts. It was like, oh, I got a rock in my bag, and then
somebody has a rock in their
right,
bag.
and then President from Ghost has a rock in his bag. It's like, so that was a big deal, and ABC was like, we'll definitely start either having commercial breaks or having warnings or whatever.
Yeah, ABC.
And it's like, oh my god.
ABC's an interesting place because they have to compete, but they've always been so wholesome. But think about it, Scandal was an ABC. Like, that's what we're saying.
Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder. That's ABC.
That's wow. It's a good show.
I kind of gave up on it, but it was alright for the first season.
Yeah.
But so that's the thing. I mean, this show was around at the time when, yes, there were some more risque things on. And I always use Ally McBeal as the main example because that really did kind of change the game for what counted for a comedy show because it was an hour long, which people didn't know what to do with that. And certainly there was a lot more sex talk, I think, on Ally McBeal than most primetime network shows at the time, and that was only about 2 years rather before this.
We drop McBeal so much, we're gonna have to talk about it at some point.
I would love to redo McBeal.
We talk about McBeal.
I do talk about McBeal all the time. It's true. But anyway, I think Lindsay is.
I mean, she's a fantastic.
I don't know if to answer your question from an hour ago. Us and the tangents. I think of this as more of an ensemble show than just specifically her show.
Do you think she's a strong enough character, and you've seen the whole thing, that if it wasn't in a show framed with all these characters and more comical, that it would be as strong?
Well, I don't think her character
she's sort of
has as much going on without that. She needs that hard line between home life and the life with the quote-unquote freaks.
It's the conflict.
She needs that conflict for the interest in her character. I mean, I think she's a good character, and the writers have, made her a very complete character just that first episode, let alone, following up on it with this. But could she hold the show together with just like her and Sam and the parents without all the other factors? No, because I think it would be so much more typical. This is a very, very atypical show. And I think, it is dramatic, but I think we can agree this is probably a comedy show. Well, all right. Just as much as it's a drama show. Yeah, it really is a drama.
I know you hate that term.
I hate that term.
You seem like you've changed a little.
I'm okay on it now.
Well, it's a good I guess if you think it's pretty evenly split, I have a hard time thinking of this as a comedy first or a drama, because that's another thing I wanted to bring up is that first episode, and you'll like this, the first episode was very dramatic.
Yeah.
It was. There were a few good laughs. I'm like, okay, this is pretty serious, which I'm fine with. But I always thought Freaks and Geeks was more funny.
How about this episode?
This episode had me rolling a couple times.
Between the assembly,
Neil,
stuff at the party, Neil just being Neil,
the beer
Bill
plot,
being Bill,
like this episode,
the guy at the liquor store,
this episode was just so much more fun, which makes sense, I guess. If you want to draw people in, you can have more fun. I'm glad it wasn't all hijinks. Like, there was still hard.
Right.
There were still serious, very serious parts.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like ha-ha the whole time. It was a good balance, but I was so much happier to see there were more laughs and, good. Like, the whole beer exchange plot was just a great little.
And that may have been from network notes after the pilot. They may have said, like,
let's
just lighten it up a little bit. Apparently, they had to fight with NBC to even make this the second episode.
Really?
Because they really didn't want to show kids drinking. And so the way they got around it was, well, they're actually not drinking. The way they got around it was, it turns out they're not drinking, guys, so it's okay.
On one hand, all the little silly things we have to deal with to get things done is interesting, but a lot of times just stupid.
A lot of
I agree. the idea is there, and I know what the networks are thinking for a family show, but they're still basically all kind of drinking. You know, it's
they think they're drinking. So it's, is it the same thing? I don't know.
Technically no, but like it's still basically a
to me, I think the hardest part to watch in the episode is definitely the Jason Segel.
That's the heaviest moment.
Definitely the heaviest moment.
And I'll be honest, I hope they address it. Well, all right, look, he did apologize.
He stopped immediately and apologized. Now, he came up with some lame excuses. But
they were very lame, but once again, he's young, he's stupid.
Yes.
It's not an excuse, but like, you can understand how people can make it. And to be fair, it's not, he could have, as we said,
he's a 16-year-old boy.
I know, that's
what we expect of these people.
And that's the thing I like a lot about this show is these characters are very believable.
Yes.
And the mistake he made was very, very believable.
Yes. And John Bonham was dead.
So he wasn't set and carried through. Also,
that was a funny bit. That was a recurring
That was a good bit. And also,
he's a drummer,
he cares so much about Zeppelin and music. Also, you asked me about the music last episode. I was like, it's pretty good. This one had a lot of my jams.
How about the jams?
Some Van Halen.
Van Halen again.
Yeah. They said what Foghat or something.
Yeah, at the party there was a ton of. There was a Kiss song in there.
Zeppelin was obviously in there.
Yeah, Zeppelin.
Did Sabbath play at all? Actually. They mentioned
play. What do you mean?
That they have any Sabbath songs? Actually.
I believe so.
There was a lot of.
It's hard to remember all the soundtrack.
Hard rock and stuff in the background.
Yeah, I don't know if it was in this episode specifically, but yeah, I think there is some Sabbath in the show.
But yeah, but this episode just had I liked a lot of the rock and stuff.
Yeah, a lot of great music. And as it goes on, and we learn more about Nick and his drumming and all of that. We see a lot more about his hatred of disco, and so the rock lean even gets heavier with that.
Nice.
But this was another winner for me. The only thing I really can say that I don't love about it.
Uh-oh.
I don't like that it just kind of ended. I think I get because they ran out of time and it's a 48-minute show or whatever it is, but I kind of hate that it just ended at the end of the party. I sort of, maybe it would have been more
I was okay with it, actually.
Generic, but I don't know, I sort of...
A wrap-up convo.
And I didn't need the parents to come back, but maybe her having a conversation with Sam the next morning...
That would have been good.
Or something, I think I would have liked to have seen. How about how the very first shot of the episode is on her dad's butt in his boxer shorts?
That was odd.
That really... But it makes people, I think, kind of take notice.
Yeah, that'll draw your attention.
It was an interesting choice.
And also the exchange right away, like, Dad, what are you wearing? Oh, like, when you can run the house, you can wear a tuxedo to breakfast for all I care. Like, I love their dad.
I do too.
Yeah,
he's a great guy.
I like the mom, but she's not as memorable as the dad.
Well, she's pretty generic, but I feel like that.
Nice.
Listen,
but he's got the jokes.
This is how 80s moms were. They were kind of. They just
mellow.
Roll with the punches, mellow. They're sort of maybe the more understanding of the two parents.
It's fair.
But he is very funny, Joe Flaherty.
I don't know. Do you feel like we don't get enough of them yet? I kind of want more of them.
Well, yeah. They definitely appear. I don't know if they're in every episode, but they're in most at least. We definitely see more of them in episode 1 because it's more about let's get to know the family a little bit first before we get to know some of the side characters.
I hope it's not like every episode they're at the beginning as like a beat and we never get to know them more as characters and the relationship to Sam and to Lindsay. Like I want
one interesting thing in the commentary, and this isn't about the parents, but it's about people being in different scenes or whatever, is that Jason Segel was in the one commentary, and he was when Sam was talking to him at the party, he literally was like, I'm pretty sure this is like one of only 2 scenes in the entire series I had with him.
Seriously?
Yeah, which struck me as odd, and I thought about it. I was like, yeah, that might be true. So, there is.
That's weird.
It is, but that just shows, she really was straddling those 2 lines, and they really did not meet a lot.
That's interesting.
The Freaks and the Geeks.
That's definitely not typical of an ensemble show, because a lot of stuff like this, I don't know, Lost or something, these characters, they all intermingle.
Right, they blend. But it's funny.
Modern Family or something. Like, everybody's all, like,
there
crossing.
was a Friends episode, and my mom pointed it out to me, where, and I know you probably don't watch Friends that much, but, like, Phoebe and Chandler did, like, a thing. their own little oh, let's do this or whatever. And my mom was like, boy, you never see Chandler and Phoebe together by themselves. And I thought of that, I was like, yeah, boy, you really don't. I obviously, producers and stuff know who maybe works better off each other, or the characters work better off each other. But for this, it's so sort of cut and dry, because there's just two factions, and Lindsay's really the only go-between.
So there wouldn't be a lot of reason for the two to interact too much.
Right.
Seinfeld was good at that. Everybody had duos and threes and once.
Yeah, but it was rare when Elaine and George did something just by themselves. It happened, but not often. Remember, in fact, they had that episode about how they had nothing to talk about except making fun of Jerry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there again, it's they're a great ensemble, but it's rare to see those two specific people together.
That's probably reasonable.
So yeah, I don't know.
Maybe. That's a shame, though.
It is.
I like their interaction.
But I think the other reason, anyway, to get back on the NBC not wanting them to do this episode because of the drinking, this wasn't in the commentary, but I wonder if that's partially why they did the assembly bit at the beginning. To sort of show, here we're teaching kids not to drink, but then it just turned out to be the funniest scene maybe in the whole show,
because it was making fun of.
Because it was sort of making fun of assemblies and all that kind of thing. So I don't know, a lot of winks and nods. But anyway, I think we've talked to death about this episode. There's so much more to talk about in the coming weeks.
One last thing I wanted to say, which I forgot to say. Now, the first episode,
okay,
you were kind of asking if I wanted to see more.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked it, but I wasn't completely sold on Freaks and Geeks.
Okay.
This episode, though.
This cemented
This one cemented it.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I like this one a lot.
Does it...
I know you're going to ask, is it better or worse?
Well, I know it's better for you. But I was going to say, I wonder how you would feel about going back to rewatch the pilot after really getting into it and getting to know these characters. Because to me, the pilot is basically perfect, as we talked about. I mean, it's
very
A+. But it's hard for me to remember how I felt about it so many years ago when I first watched it before I knew anybody.
Yeah, it's always different when you know the show and you go back and you can evaluate it.
Right. So maybe you'd feel differently after
I watched the whole thing,
seeing the more, or at least more of it.
Probably.
But I do agree. I think both episodes do a great job of, if you have not seen this show yet, you don't know anything about these characters, you don't need to see the pilot to be 100% in on this episode. You really don't.
No, you don't.
So I like that about it. If people missed it the first week and they're like, oh, I heard this was a good show, let's check it out, honey, and then they see it, I don't think they'd be confused at all.
So they're not deep into serial plot stuff yet?
Not yet. I mean, I don't...
Because that's what I was thinking.
I don't know if they ever really get...
With the beer hijinks thing, is it going to be one of those things where every episode is just a different thing? Or are there beats that kind of run? That's what I'm wondering.
The recurring thread is certainly Lindsay and her devotion to family versus her want to be in a hip group.
Sure. But there's a two-parter,
not as such, I don't think. But as we delve more into Nick's music career, there's certainly threads with the band and stuff, and Kim Kelly becomes more of a kind of fixture within the group, and so there's things. But yeah, certainly these first two episodes, I mean, obviously the pilot you have to go in blind, but I think this episode you could go in completely blind and still get everything immediately.
All right,
so
I agree.
This to me was another outstanding one.
Very good.
I'm not going to give it an A+. It's an A.
Yeah, it's not A, sounds right.
Yeah, I wish they had just a little maybe 2-minute scene at the end.
Hey, man.
I think it wrapped up a little too quickly.
If it was on Netflix, they could have a 75-minute episode.
I know. God bless them.
Okay, it's a different time.
But this is better than any show on Netflix, I think.
Right now,
I'm trying to think, there's some good ones on Netflix, but boy, oh boy, yeah, I don't know. For me, I think this might beat it. But all right, well, thank you for watching. Joe, I'm glad you're on board with this. Let's try it again next week.
Sure.
Episode 3, can't wait. And you guys, we've had a couple of good comments on the first video.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys are Freaks and Geeks fans, let us know. Hopefully you love this as enthusiastically as I do, and Joe is about to.
Getting there.
He's getting there. So yeah, but thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
hate Freaks
What
Geeks,
happened?
man.
Get the hell out of here. What a lie.
No,
What a straight lie.
It's very good though, man.